The starward Vanguard was one of humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessels, designed to chart the farthest reaches of uncharted systems. Its mission was ambitious: find new habitable worlds, establish colonies, and expand human influence in the galaxy. Yet after months of travel, something went horribly wrong. The vessel was forced to land on an alien planet unlike any seen before. This death world was hostile in every sense. A savage wilderness where the very air seemed to hum with danger. Towering plants with razor-sharp leaves swayed ominously in acidic winds. Predatory creatures, some capable of camouflaging perfectly against the toxic environment, stalked the shadows. The ecosystem itself was a labyrinth of death traps. Every footstep could be a mistake. The crew of the starward Vanguard was skilled and well-trained, but no one had been prepared for a planet like this. Supplies dwindled rapidly, and their attempts to repair their damaged engines were slowed by the hazardous conditions outside the ship. Communication with human space was erratic. Interference from the planet's magnetic field scrambled signals and delayed rescue or backup. As days passed, hope began to wane. Morale slipped as exhaustion and fear took hold. The captain, Commander Selena Varick, was a veteran of space conflicts and exploration, renowned for her calm under pressure. She kept her crew focused and disciplined, but she knew the situation was dire. Faced with dwindling oxygen, scarce food, and no clear timeline for rescue, the decision was made to send a universal SOS beacon, a desperate call for help transmitted on all frequencies in hopes that some friendly force might intercept it. The beacon included their location, their condition, and a plea for immediate extraction. What the starward Vanguard crew didn't know was that their SOS had not gone unnoticed, at least not by friendly ears. Far beyond human space lurked a fearsome and fiercely territorial species known as the Deathworlders. Their entire culture was built around survival in hostile environments, similar to the one the starward Vanguard was trapped in. Deathworlders were known throughout the galaxy for their brutal military prowess and unyielding response to perceived threats. To the Deathworlders, any unknown signal near their borders was treated as an act of aggression or invasion, especially if it came from a species known for expansionist tendencies like humans. The SOS beacon was interpreted as a declaration of hostile intent, a challenge that demanded an overwhelming response. Within hours, the Deathworlders began mobilizing their war fleet, dozens of colossal warships equipped with devastating weaponry and millions of soldiers primed for combat. Their battle doctrine was simple: preemptively eliminate any possible threat before it could grow. Back on the starward Vanguard, the crew remained unaware of the approaching danger. They believed their distress call would bring rescue, not war. The final moments of Part 1 close with the starward Vanguard's scanners detecting multiple high-energy warp signatures emerging from hyperspace near the planet's orbit. A cold dread settles over the bridge as the implications become clear. Their SOS has backfired spectacularly. Instead of salvation, they have summoned a war fleet ready to annihilate them. Commander Varick orders full alert. The crew prepares for what may be their last stand, knowing they must survive not just the planet's deadly ecosystem, but now also a merciless alien armada determined to wipe them out. The calm that once hung over the starward Vanguard's bridge shattered like glass as the massive war fleet materialized in orbit around the Death World. Hundreds of Deathworlder warships, sleek and menacing, emerged from warp with terrifying precision. Their presence instantly dwarfed the lone human vessel, casting a shadow of impending doom. Commander Selene Varick's grip tightened on the command console. Years of training had prepared her for many dangers, but this was unlike anything she had faced before. The Deathworlders were infamous across the galaxy for their ruthless military efficiency and intolerance of outsiders. Their reputation as merciless warriors who fought to the death was well earned, and now they had arrived with overwhelming force. The crew scrambled to respond. The ship's sensors detected every vessel, frigates, cruisers, and the massive command ship at the fleet's art. Communications officers frantically tried to hail the alien armada, hoping to explain the misunderstanding. The SOS was a desperate plea for help, not a provocation. But the Deathworlders responded only with cold silence. Their language was harsh, their messages curt and uncompromising. They issued an ultimatum: surrender or face annihilation. Panic rippled through the starward vanguard. The ship's tactical officers ran simulations, calculating survival odds against an enemy whose technology and numbers far exceeded their own. The vanguard was designed for exploration and scientific missions, not full-scale war. Yet surrender was unthinkable. Humanity's pride and survival instinct would not allow it. Captain Varric quickly convened a meeting with her senior officers. They needed a plan, something creative, something human. Her leadership was calm but resolute, inspiring. Confidence despite the bleak situation. The crew had to maximize their limited resources, fortify the ship's defenses, and prepare for inevitable battle. Efforts to send distress signals to nearby human colonies or allied species were hampered by the planet's magnetic interference and Deathworlder jamming signals. Communications remained blocked or ignored. It was clear the Deathworlders wanted to isolate the vanguard and prevent any reinforcements from arriving. While preparing for war, the Starward Vanguard's scientists studied the planet's environment for any advantage. They discovered unique flora and fauna that could be weaponized or used to bolster the crew's survival odds. Acidic spores that could be spread in enemy ships, or camouflaging abilities that might hide human movements on the planet's surface. At HFY, the same time tensions flared among the crew. Fear, frustration, and anger bubbled beneath the surface. The situation tested their loyalty, discipline, and sanity. Some began to question their captain's decisions, others the mission itself. Commander Varric held firm, reminding them that humans had survived worse and thrived by adapting and outsmarting stronger foes. The Deathworlders began their first move. Orbital bombardments aimed at disabling the Vanguard's external systems and the few human outposts on the planet. The explosions shook the ship, cutting power to vital sections and forcing emergency repairs. Despite the devastation, Captain Varric refused to give in. She recognized the Deathworlders' arrogance. They assumed humans were weak and would crumble quickly. But humanity's greatest strength was never brute force alone. It was adaptability, cunning, and the indomitable will to survive. As the fleet tightened its noose, Varric secretly prepared a desperate gambit, a daring plan to strike deep into the enemy fleet using guerrilla tactics that leveraged their knowledge of the Deathworld's terrain and the Vanguard's limited but versatile arsenal. The crew braced themselves, knowing the next phase of this brutal encounter would decide their fate. The Deathworlders demanded surrender, but the humans would show them that desperation was only the beginning of a fight they could never have anticipated. As the Deathworlders' warfleet settled into a suffocating siege around the Deathworld, the Starward Vanguard's situation grew more desperate by the hour. The relentless orbital bombardments had crippled some of the ship's critical systems, while the hostile environment outside allowed no safe refuge. Yet amid this darkness, hope flickered in unexpected ways. Commander Celine Varric understood that sheer firepower was no match for the Deathworlders' overwhelming fleet. To survive, humanity needed allies, and fast. But in this remote corner of space, official human support was days or even weeks away. Thanks to the planet's magnetic interference and Deathworlder jamming technology, Varric turned to a secret contact, a nearby human colony, hidden deep within the shadow of a neighboring star system. This colony was unlike typical settlements. It was built and maintained by humanity's best engineers and scientists specializing in Deathworld survival technologies. Over decades, they had developed specialized equipment and biological enhancements that allowed humans to thrive on the galaxy's harshest worlds, tools that could turn the environment itself into a weapon. Through encrypted channels, Varric reached out to the colony's leader, Dr. Era Koss. Koss was a brilliant but reclusive biotechnologist, renowned for her radical approaches to survival and combat in extreme environments. The colony agreed to send emergency supplies, advanced camouflage gear, bioadaptive armor, and experimental biological agents designed to neutralize or even weaponize the planet's dangerous flora and fauna. While awaiting the shipment, The Vanguard's crew began training with these new technologies. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to retrofit their equipment and integrate alien biomaterials salvaged from the Death World. Human adaptability quickly became evident. Crew members learned to move silently using biocamouflage. Suits and medics administered genetic treatments to boost endurance and healing. This human ingenuity contrasted sharply with the Deathworlders' rigid military doctrine. The alien warriors relied on overwhelming force and predictable tactics, convinced that no species could match their endurance on such a hostile planet. They underestimated human creativity and resilience. Meanwhile, the Deathworlders escalated their assault, intensifying orbital strikes and deploying drop pods filled with ground troops onto the planet's surface. These warriors were elite, adapted for Deathworld combat themselves, and they quickly began hunting the Vanguard's scattered teams. Despite the pressure, human teams used guerrilla tactics, striking from the shadows and disappearing into the dense, dangerous jungles. Their bioadaptive gear allowed them to blend into the environment, setting traps using the planet's poisonous spores and carnivorous plants to ambush enemy patrols. Each skirmish drained the Deathworlders' resources and morale. The alliance with the hidden colony was proving invaluable, not only supplying gear but also crucial knowledge about the Deathworld's ecology. The crew's scientists discovered ways to engineer biological agents that, once released into enemy ships or bases, could disrupt the Deathworlders' technology or cause confusion within their ranks. On the ship, the crew's morale began to shift. What had seemed like an impossible fight transformed into a battle of wits and survival. Commander Varick's leadership, combined with the new technology and their growing familiarity with the hostile planet, forged a stronger, more determined crew, but the Deathworlders too adapted. They began deploying countermeasures against the biological threats and tightened their patrols. The stage was set for an escalation, a bold strike by the Vanguard into the heart of the Deathworlders' fleet. Varick planned to exploit the enemy's overconfidence and stretched resources, hoping to turn their strength against them. As preparations began, the humans braced themselves for a dangerous gamble. They had shown hidden strengths, but now they had to prove that their resilience and ingenuity could overcome an enemy that believed itself invincible. With the Deathworlders' war fleet encircling the planet and their forces pressing down relentlessly, the crew of the starward Vanguard found themselves pushed to the very edge of survival. Conventional tactics were impossible against the overwhelming numbers and superior firepower of their foes. But humans were nothing if not adaptable, and thus began a brutal guerrilla war on the hostile Deathworld, where the environment became as much an ally as a weapon. Commander Celine Varick issued a new directive. No direct confrontation unless it was on the humans' terms. Instead, the crew split into small, highly mobile teams. Using the bioadaptive gear and specialized training provided by the hidden colony, these squads infiltrated the jungle's deadly thickets, moving silently beneath toxic canopies and weaving through predator-infested terrain. Their goal was to harass the enemy's supply lines, sabotage warships docked in orbit, and strike at key command nodes. Each operation was a high-stakes gamble. The Deathworld's flora and fauna were lethally unforgiving. Acidic plants, venomous insects, and giant predators waited in every shadow. Yet the humans exploited these dangers with ingenuity. They rigged spore clouds to explode on contact, setting ambushes where the planet itself fought alongside them. Venom extracted from native creatures was weaponized to weaken enemy troops. This melding of biology and warfare was unlike anything the Deathworlders had anticipated. On the battlefield, the guerrilla tactics unnerved the Deathworlders. Their military doctrine was built around overwhelming power and strict formations, not hit-and-run strikes in an environment they only partially controlled. Human squads appeared and vanished, leaving confusion and chaos in their wake. The enemy's advanced sensors struggled against the natural interference from the planet's magnetic storms and dense foliage. The starward Vanguard itself, though crippled, became a mobile command center and repair hub, its crew constantly adapting its systems. For rapid deployment of fighters and drones, engineers converted salvaged Deathworlder tech and incorporated biological elements harvested from the planet, producing hybrid weaponry that blended technology with nature. As the guerrilla war escalated, the human crew formed deep bonds of trust and camaraderie, each operation testing their limits and pushing their creativity. Specialists in xenobiology, cybernetics, and combat tactics worked in seamless coordination, turning the tide inch by inch. Amid this chaos, Commander Varric identified a critical vulnerability in the Deathworlders' fleet. Their flagship served as the central hub of communications and coordination, but its size made it sluggish and vulnerable when isolated. Destroying or disabling it could disrupt the entire war effort. Varric formulated a daring plan. Using a small strike team equipped with stealth technology and bioadaptive suits, the Vanguard would launch a surprise assault on the flagship. This attack would rely heavily on misdirection, human cunning, and the ability to survive in the hostile jungle terrain surrounding the enemy's landing zones. The mission was dangerous beyond measure. If caught, the team faced certain death, or capture by an enemy who took no prisoners. But the alternative was defeat, and Varric knew humanity's survival depended on seizing the initiative. As the strike team prepared, tensions ran high. Every member understood the stakes. The guerrilla war had bought them time and shaken the Deathworlders' confidence. But victory would require more than just survival. It demanded audacity. With the planet's natural dangers as cover and their unique technologies as weapons, humanity was ready to show the galaxy that desperation was a crucible for greatness, and that even against impossible odds, they could strike back. The Starward Vanguard strike team prepared for the most daring operation yet, infiltrating and crippling the Deathworlders' massive flagship, the heart of their war fleet and command. This was the pivotal moment that could shift the tide of the conflict and save the remnants of humanity trapped on the hostile Deathworld. Failure would mean annihilation. Commander Celine Varric personally led the assault, handpicking a small squad of elite specialists. Each team member brought unique skills: stealth operatives, expert xenobiologists familiar with the Deathworld's flora and fauna, engineers capable of hacking alien technology, and combat veterans trained in close-quarters warfare. Their mission was precise: penetrate the heavily guarded flagship, disrupt communications and power systems, and plant explosives to disable the ship permanently. Under the cloak of a magnetic storm, nature's own mask, the squad launched from a hidden base, nestled deep in the planet's jungle. Using bioadaptive camo suits, they slipped through the dense, poisonous foliage, avoiding patrols and natural predators alike. The environment itself, once a deadly adversary, now served as a shroud, hiding their movements from Deathworlder sensors. As they approached the flagship's orbiting docking bay, tension mounted. The ship's defensive turrets scanned the skies, and robotic sentries patrolled corridors. The squad's engineers deployed improvised EMP devices, temporarily blinding security systems and creating narrow windows for infiltration. Inside the ship, the team encountered brutal resistance. The Deathworlders fought with savage precision, their instincts honed by a lifetime surviving Deathworlds. Close-quarter firefights erupted in the shadowed corridors, where every mistake could be fatal. Yet the humans' training and adaptability allowed them to press forward, using their knowledge of alien biology and technology to anticipate enemy tactics. In a daring move, the xenobiologist activated a bioengineered toxin derived from the planet's flora, releasing it into the ship's ventilation system. The toxin disoriented the Deathworlder crew, buying crucial minutes for the squad to reach the command core. Commander Varric and her team reached the communications hub, where the central command AI interfaced with the fleet's vessels. There, engineers hacked into the system, planting viruses that began to disrupt communications across the entire Deathworlder armada. Without coordination, the enemy fleet's advantage rapidly eroded. With alarms blaring, the team raced to set explosives around the flagship's reactor core. Every second was a countdown to discovery and death. Just as the squad began the final phase of the mission, enemy reinforcements arrived, forcing a tense and desperate retreat. Fighting their way back through the labyrinthine ship, the strike team sustained injuries but managed to escape just as the planted charges detonated. The flagship shuddered violently, systems failing as the colossal warship lost power and began a slow, tumbling descent toward the Deathworld below. The destruction of the flagship was a stunning blow to the Deathworlders. Their fleet lost coordination and momentum, giving the starward Vanguard's crew a precious opportunity to regroup and strike back. Back on the planet, word of the mission's success spread quickly, bolstering morale among the humans. The victory proved that humanity's resilience and ingenuity could defy the odds. It also sent a powerful message to the galaxy. Humans were not to be underestimated. However, Commander Varric knew the war was far from over. The Deathworlders would not surrender easily. Their thirst for vengeance was fierce, and the destruction of their flagship would only escalate the conflict. But for now, humanity had seized the initiative. The starward Vanguard and its crew prepared for the next phase, a counteroffensive that could turn this desperate fight into a hard-won victory. The destruction of the Deathworlders' flagship had sent shockwaves through their fleet, but the war was far from over. Commander Celine Varric knew that the Deathworlders were a relentless enemy, battle-hardened, brutal, and unyielding. Yet the tide had shifted. For the first time, humanity held the initiative. With the flagship disabled and their communications in chaos, the Deathworlders' forces were disorganized. The starward Vanguard and its allied human guerrilla fighters seized this opportunity to press the attack. Using hit-and-run tactics honed over months of brutal jungle warfare, they began dismantling the enemy's encampments and supply lines across the planet. But the humans were not just fighting on the surface. They took the battle into orbit. Utilizing salvaged and improvised technology, Varric coordinated precise strikes against the enemy fleet. Fighter squadrons launched surprise raids from hidden bases, using the planet's magnetic storms and terrain to mask their approaches. Meanwhile, back on the planet, the hidden human colony that had supplied the Vanguard with bioadaptive gear and weaponized biology played a critical role. Their advanced research provided new biological agents that weakened Deathworlder soldiers and disrupted their technology, turning the planet itself into a weapon of resistance. The guerrilla fighters, equipped with these tools and fueled by fierce determination, systematically broke the Deathworlders' will to continue the siege. Every battle, every sabotage mission chipped away at the alien invaders' morale and resources, but the Deathworlders were far from defeated. Desperate and enraged, they unleashed their deadliest tactics, deploying heavily armored siege units and triggering bioengineered beasts bred for combat on the Deathworld. The battles grew bloodier, the stakes higher. During one intense clash, Commander Varric herself led a critical mission to rescue a captured human scientist whose knowledge was vital to sustaining the guerrilla war. The daring operation, carried out under heavy fire, showcased human courage and ingenuity, further inspiring the troops. Throughout the conflict, humanity's core strengths, adaptability, creativity, and an unbreakable will, proved decisive. The human's ability to learn and evolve in real time, integrating alien biology with technology, and exploiting the Deathworld's hazards, created a unique advantage no enemy had anticipated. The Deathworlders' rigid honor code and tactical dogma became a weakness. Their inability to adapt quickly to human guerrilla warfare and unconventional tactics left them vulnerable to surprise and subterfuge. Gradually, the alien fleet began to retreat, their losses mounting and morale shattered. Varric's strategic genius and the crew's unyielding spirit had turned a desperate SOS into a victory against overwhelming odds. As the Deathworlders withdrew, humanity solidified its hold on the Deathworld, transforming it from a battlefield into a bastion of resilience and hope. The victory sent ripples through the galaxy, challenging long-held beliefs about human fragility and signaling the rise of a new power. Commander Varric addressed her crew and allied forces, reminding them that the fight had forged something stronger than weapons or technology. It had forged unity and determination. Humanity had proven that even in the darkest moments they could overcome, adapt, and prevail. The starward Vanguard's ordeal was a testament to human tenacity, but also a warning. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers. The war had only begun, and new challenges awaited. Yet for now, the humans celebrated a hard-fought victory, knowing their survival and triumph had changed the course of history.